A poor mother with twins in her arms knocks on the door of a mansion on a rainy night. And what happens next is unbelievable. The rain wouldn't let up. Claire held the two babies close to her chest, trying to shield them with her coat, which no longer offered any protection. Water streamed down her face, her neck, and her back. Her shoes made a squishy sound with every step. Lila whimpered. June trembled, her eyes squeezed tightly shut. Claire looked up at the mansion in front of her. 3 stories high, enormous windows, a lawn that was probably beautiful on normal days. Lights were on upstairs on the 2nd floor. Someone was home. She climbed the 3 steps to the entrance. She nearly slipped on the last one but managed to steady herself. She held the girls tighter. She took a deep breath. She knocked on the door 3 times, hard. She waited. The freezing wind hit her face. Lila started to genuinely cry. June squirmed in her arms, bothered. "It's okay, my love," Claire whispered. "It will be over soon." But nothing was over. She knocked again, harder. With desperation, she heard footsteps from inside, heavy, from someone who did not want to be disturbed. The door opened. A man appeared, tall, broad shoulders, grey hair, his face marked by deep wrinkles. Around 70, perhaps, a white button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up. He held a glass of whiskey. He looked Claire up and down. He saw her soaking wet clothes, the babies in her arms, her despair. His face didn't change. "I don't take in beggars." The voice was deep and dry. Claire took a step forward before he could close the door. "Please, just for one night. My daughters are freezing." The man frowned. "There's a shelter 3 miles down the road." "I can't walk another 3 miles carrying them," Claire said. Her voice nearly broke. "Please, just this one night. We'll leave in the morning." He was about to say no. He was opening his mouth to send her away. That's when June opened her eyes. 2 enormous eyes, blue like a summer sky. The baby looked directly at the man and smiled, a small, toothless smile wet with rain, the kind of smile that disarms anyone. The man stopped. Lila opened her eyes too, blonde like her sister, clear eyes shining in the dim light. She looked at him and let out a little giggle. Both stared at the man as if he were the most interesting thing in the world. He stood still, one hand on the door, the glass in the other. His face remained stern, but something in him hesitated. "One night," he said, stepping back. "Just one." Claire nearly collapsed with relief. "Thank you." She stepped in quickly before he could change his mind. The interior of the mansion was impressive. Dark hardwood floors, antique furniture, an enormous chandelier on the ceiling. Everything tidy, clean, perfect, but cold, empty of life. The man closed the door and walked to the living room without saying anything. Claire followed, leaving a trail of water on the gleaming floor. "You can stay right there," he said, pointing to the large sofa near the unlit fireplace. "I'll fetch some towels." He left the room. Claire sat on the sofa and placed the babies next to her. They were soaking wet, but they weren't trembling as much anymore. June yawned. Lila held her mother's finger. The man returned with towels in his arms. He tossed 2 onto the sofa without looking at Claire. He took the 3rd and knelt by the fireplace. He began to build a fire. The flames slowly grew. Claire carefully dried the girls' faces. She took off their wet clothes and wrapped both of them in large towels. They fussed a little but quickly calmed down. The warmth of the fireplace began to spread. The man stood up and looked at them. "How old are they?" 8 months, Claire answered. "They're twins, Lila and June." He nodded, took a sip of his whiskey. "Tithe, there are blankets in the cabinet over there," he said, pointing. "You leave in the morning." Claire was about to thank him again, but he had already left. She heard his footsteps climbing the stairs. A door closed upstairs. Silence. Claire took blankets from the cabinet and made a little nest on the floor near the fire. She lay the girls down there, covered and warm. They closed their eyes almost immediately. Claire lay down beside them and pulled a blanket over herself. For the first time in days, she could breathe properly, but she didn't sleep well. She lay there, staring at the high ceiling, thinking about everything. How she had ended up there, the husband she had lost, the home she had lost, everything that had fallen apart. But now she had a roof over her head. even if it was just for one night. Upstairs, the man wasn't sleeping either, sitting on the edge of the bed, in the dark, staring out the window. The rain continued to fall. He thought about the two blonde babies smiling at him, the blue eyes looking at him as if he were important. How long had it been since someone had looked at him like that? Years. He shook his head, irritated. He shouldn't have let them in. It would only cause trouble. People brought problems, noise, complication. He had chosen to live alone for a reason. He lay down and turned his back, closed his eyes, but the image of the two little ones wouldn't leave his mind. The smiles. When Claire woke up, the sun was streaming through the windows. It took her a second to remember where she was. Then everything rushed back. She looked to her side. The girls were still sleeping, curled up together, Lila with her arm over June. Claire slowly got up. Her muscles ached. Sleeping on the floor hadn't been comfortable, but it had been better than nothing. She heard sounds coming from somewhere. She followed them until she found the kitchen. Large and organized white cabinets. The man was standing with his back to her, making coffee. He had changed clothes, a light blue shirt, jeans. "Good morning," Claire said. He looked over his shoulder. "Good morning, help yourself. Mugs are over there." Claire grabbed a mug when he was done. The coffee was strong, hot, perfect. She took a sip. The warmth spread down her chest. It had been so long since she'd had real coffee. The man tidied a few things, put away the coffee grounds, washed the spoon, all with precise movements. Then he turned to her. "Hey, it's time for you to go." Claire felt her chest tighten. She knew this was coming, but she wasn't ready. "I know," she said, placing the mug in the sink. She was going to leave. She was going to wake the girls and leave for nowhere. But she stopped. She turned around. It was now or never. "Mr. Walter. My name is Walter. Walter." She took a deep breath. "I know you don't know me, and I know you don't owe me anything. Not even this night you gave me." He stood still, waiting. "But I need to ask you for something." "Then don't ask." But he didn't leave the kitchen. "Please let us stay a few more days." Her voice was steady, dignified. "Just a few a week, 2 at most. I'll cook, clean the house, do the laundry, take care of the yard. Whatever you need, we won't be in the way. The girls are quiet." She swallowed hard. "I just need a place, some time to get organized, to find a job." Walter remained silent. He truly looked at her. He saw a woman who was tired but not defeated, frightened but not broken, asking for help without groveling. "How long?" 2 weeks, maybe 3 if... 2 weeks, he cut in. "Not 1 day more." Claire grabbed the counter. The relief was enormous. "Thank you. Thank you so much. I promise, no unnecessary conversation." He cut her off. His voice was harsh. "You take care of your business, I'll take care of mine. We keep our distance. This house is big enough for us not to constantly cross paths. Understood?" "Yes." "And these children," he hesitated. "They cannot make a mess. This house has order. It has routine, silence. I don't want that to change." "They're babies," Claire said. "They're quiet most of the time. They eat, sleep, play a little. They won't bother you." Walter didn't look convinced, but he didn't argue. 2 weeks, starting today." He picked up his mug and left. Claire stood there, still holding the counter. She couldn't quite believe it. 2 weeks. She had 2 weeks to find a job, to find a place, to rebuild something. It wasn't much, but it was more than she had before. She went back to the living room. The girls were already awake. June sitting up, looking around, Lila on her tummy, trying to crawl. "Good morning, my darlings," Claire said, picking them both up. "We have news. We're staying here for a little while." The babies didn't understand, but they smiled, because babies smile for no reason. Later, Walter walked through the living room. He was going somewhere, carrying papers. He didn't look directly at them, but he slowed his pace as he passed the sofa. June saw him. She raised her little arms and gave a giggle. Lila turned her blonde head and offered that toothless smile. Walter stopped for a second. His eyes met the baby's eyes. Something crossed his face. Quick, subtle, a tiny crack in the mask, but he turned his face and kept going. He pretended he hadn't seen. He pretended those smiles hadn't affected him, but his hands gripped the papers a little tighter. Claire, watching from a distance, noticed. She saw it, and for the first time since she had arrived there wet and desperate, she felt a flicker of hope. Maybe 2 weeks would be enough. Maybe that stone man wasn't so hard after all. Or maybe she was being naive. Time would tell. But for now, she had a roof. She had food. She had safety for her daughters. And that was more than enough. Claire spent the rest of the morning exploring the house, with Walter's silent permission. He had disappeared into a room on the second floor. The kitchen was well equipped. Full fridge, organized pantry. It seemed like he didn't cook much. There was frozen food, stale bread, overripe fruit. Claire mentally made a list. She could make a soup, fresh bread, maybe a simple roast. If she was going to stay, she needed to show she was worth it. She put the girls on the living room rug, near the already cold fireplace. They played with their little hands, talking to each other in that baby language only they understood. Claire returned to the kitchen and started cleaning. She organized the fridge, threw away what was spoiled, wiped the shelves. Then she moved on to the pantry, arranged the containers, lined up the cans. She was in the middle of it when she heard footsteps. Walter appeared in the kitchen doorway. He stopped when he saw what she was doing. "You don't have to do that right now," he said. "I know, but I want to help." He looked at her for a moment, then nodded and left. Claire continued cleaning. In the afternoon, she prepared lunch. She found chicken in the freezer, vegetables in the fridge. She made a simple stew, with potatoes and carrots. The smell spread through the house. When it was ready, she put the girls in the baby seats she had brought in her backpack. She fed them baby food. June ate everything. Lila made a mess, as usual. Claire was finishing cleaning up when Walter appeared again. "Did you eat lunch?" he asked. "Not yet." "Is there food?" "I made a stew. There's plenty if you want some." Walter hesitated. Then he went to the stove and served himself. He ate standing up, near the sink. He didn't say anything about the food, but he got a second helping. Claire smiled internally. Maybe, just maybe, this could work. When night came, Claire bathed the girls using the sink in the bathroom of the suite Walter had indicated. It was on the first floor, far from his room. She put clean pajamas on them. Lila yawned. June was already almost asleep. She took them to the room. There was no crib, so she improvised. She pushed 2 armchairs together, put blankets in the middle. It wasn't ideal, but it would work. She lay the girls down there. They snuggled into each other and fell asleep. Claire stayed there, sitting on the floor beside them, just watching. 2 weeks. She had 2 weeks to change their lives, and she was going to make it happen, no matter what. The first few days passed slowly. Claire woke up early, before sunrise. She picked up the still sleepy girls, bathed them in the bathroom sink, changed their diapers, put on clean clothes. Then she went down to the kitchen. She prepared strong coffee the way Walter liked it. She left his mug on the counter, always in the same spot. He would come down, grab his coffee, drink it in silence, and go back upstairs. No good morning, no thank you. Nothing. But she didn't mind. She wasn't there for conversation. Claire cleaned the house every day. She mopped the hardwood floor until it shined. She carefully dusted the antique furniture. She straightened the sofa cushions. She washed the dishes as soon as they were used. The house was enormous. There were rooms she didn't even know the purpose of. But she cleaned everything anyway. She cooked 3 times a day. Simple breakfast. Lunch always ready at noon. Dinner at 7 in the evening. She left everything prepared, covered, warm. Walter ate alone, sometimes in the kitchen. Sometimes he took his plate to the office. He never commented on the food, but the plates always came back empty. Claire quickly learned his routine. He woke up at 6, had coffee at 6:30, locked himself in the office at 7, left to eat lunch at noon, but was back in 15 minutes. He stayed in the office until 7 in the evening, ate dinner, then went to his room every day, the same thing. She kept herself discreet. When she heard his footsteps, she went to another room. When he was in the kitchen, she stayed in the living room. When he crossed the living room, she went up to the bedroom. They barely saw each other, and when they did, they only nodded, no words. The girls spent their days on the rug in the living room. Claire had found some old cloths in the laundry closet. Nothing special, dish towels and small hand towels, a frayed scarf. But for Lila and June, they were perfect toys. June liked a blue cloth. She held it with both hands and waved it. Sometimes she threw it far away and crawled to it. Other times she covered her own face and waited for Claire to remove it, laughing when her face reappeared. Lila preferred a red cloth. She rubbed it on her face, smelled it, chewed on the corners. When she got bored, she threw it on the floor and clapped her hands over it. They talked to each other. Funny sounds, loose syllables, ba ba ba, ma ma ma. Sometimes they laughed at the same time, for no apparent reason. Claire stayed nearby, sewing old clothes she had brought, or just watching. The house was silent. Only the sounds of the girls echoed through the enormous room. The wall clock ticked. The wood floor creaked occasionally, but other than that, everything was quiet, quieter than Claire expected. Walter barely left the office. He stayed in there all day. Claire didn't know what he did in there. Read, work, just sit. It wasn't her business. But sometimes, when she passed through the hallway, she heard sounds. Paper being turned, a chair creaking, steps back and forth. He was alive in there, at least. Once, she heard something different, a muffled sound, as if someone had dropped something. She stopped in front of the door, hesitated. "Is everything okay?" she asked. Silence on the other side. Then his voice, hoarse. "Yes." She kept walking. It wasn't her business. On the fourth day, Claire was cleaning the upstairs hallway. There were 5 doors there. Walter's room. She knew which one it was. His bathroom. A guest room where she and the girls slept. Another empty room. And a 5th door, always closed. Claire was curious, but she had never tried to open it. It wasn't her place. But that day, as she was cleaning, her cloth fell right in front of that door. She bent down to pick it up. She looked at the doorknob. Dark, worn wood. It looked old. Without thinking too much, she put her hand on the doorknob. She turned it. The door began to open. Not that room. Walter's voice came from behind her, hard as stone. Claire turned quickly, letting go of the doorknob. He was at the end of the hallway, standing still, looking at her with an expression she couldn't read. It wasn't anger. It was something deeper. "I'm sorry," she said quickly. "I didn't know." "I won't." "Not that room," he repeated. "Never," she nodded. "I understand. I'm sorry." Walter stood still for another second, looking at the door. Then he turned and went down the stairs. Claire stood there, her heart pounding. She looked at the door again. What was inside? But it wasn't her business. She had promised to keep her distance. She had promised not to interfere. She picked up the cloth from the floor and went to finish cleaning another hallway. But the curiosity remained, small but present. The days continued to pass. Claire cleaned, cooked, took care of the girls. Walter stayed in the office, ate alone, went up to his room. They didn't talk. They barely looked at each other. The house remained silent. But there was something different in the air. Claire felt it, but she couldn't explain it. It was as if the house was breathing again, slowly, almost imperceptibly, but breathing. The girls' sounds echoed through the walls. The smell of homemade food filled the rooms. There were clean towels in the bathroom. Fresh flowers Claire had picked from the yard on the living room table. Small things. But the house seemed less cold, less empty. Walter didn't comment on anything, but she noticed changes in him too. Sometimes he stopped in the middle of the hallway, as if he were listening to something. Other times he walked through the living room and glanced at the girls on the rug. Never for long, just a second, but he looked. One morning, Claire was making coffee when she saw something different. Walter's mug had been left in the sink, washed. He never washed his mug. He always left it on the counter for her to wash later, but that morning it was clean next to the others. Claire stared at the mug for a moment, a small gesture. Insignificant, perhaps, but it meant something. She didn't know what, but it meant something. At night, after putting the girls to bed, Claire would stay awake a little longer. She sat by the bedroom window, looking out at the dark yard. A week had already passed, one more to go. Then she would have to leave. But where to? She hadn't found a job yet. She didn't have enough money. She had nowhere to go. She tried not to think about it, but it was hard. She sighed and looked at the sleeping girls, Lila with her mouth open, June with her arm over her sister. They deserved more than this. They deserved a real home, security, stability, and Claire was going to give them that. Somehow, she had to. She closed her eyes and rested her head against the cold window pane. The house was silent, but it was a different silence now. It was no longer the heavy, dead silence she had felt on the first day. It was a living silence, full of possibilities. Or maybe she was imagining things. Maybe it was just exhaustion talking. But even so, she felt it. Something had changed. Something small but real. And maybe, just maybe, there was still hope. She opened her eyes and looked at the yard again. The moon was full, illuminating everything with a silver light. Beautiful. For the first time in a long time, Claire allowed herself to feel something other than fear and exhaustion. She allowed herself to feel a little bit of peace. Just a little bit. But it was something. It was on the 9th day that something changed. Claire was in the living room with the girls, as usual. June was playing with the blue cloth, tossing it up and trying to catch it. Lila was on her stomach, patting her hands on the rug. The clock struck 3 in the afternoon. Claire heard footsteps coming down the stairs. This was already strange. Walter never left the office at this time. He only left for lunch and then at night. But there he was, descending slowly. Claire kept quiet, expecting him to walk straight past as he always did, but he didn't pass. He stopped at the entrance to the living room. He just stood there, looking inside. At the rug, at the girls playing. Claire didn't know what to do. She looked at him, but didn't say anything. Walter walked into the living room. For the first time since she had arrived, he truly entered. He didn't just walk through, he actually entered. He went to the armchair near the window and sat down. He picked up a book from the side table, opened it to the first page, but he wasn't reading. His eyes went to the book, but soon darted over to the girls. Claire pretended not to notice. She continued folding the babies' clothes that she had just washed. June threw the blue cloth. It landed near Walter's feet. The baby looked at the cloth, then at Walter. She crawled towards him, determined. Claire almost got up to grab her, but restrained herself. June reached the armchair. She grabbed the cuff of Walter's pants and looked up at him. He lowered the book and looked at her. June smiled, that enormous, toothless smile that lit up her whole face. Her blue eyes sparkled. She clapped her hands. Walter just sat there, staring. Then, slowly, the corner of his mouth went up. It was quick. A second, maybe 2. But it was a smile, small, almost imperceptible, but real. Claire saw everything. She stopped folding the clothes mid-motion. But she didn't say anything. She didn't comment. She just watched. Walter picked up the blue cloth from the floor and handed it to June. She took it with both hands and laughed. Then she crawled back towards Lila. He went back to looking at the book, but Claire noticed he wasn't turning the pages. He sat there for about 20 minutes, just sitting, with the book open, while the girls played on the rug. Then he got up and left the room without saying a word. Claire stared at the empty doorway. Something had happened, small but important. Walter had smiled. The next day it happened again. This time it was morning. Claire was feeding the girls baby food in the living room. She had them sitting on the rug, side by side, and was alternating spoonfuls between the two. June opened her mouth like a baby bird. Lila made a face but ate anyway. Walter appeared in the doorway. Claire looked at him. "Good morning." He nodded. "Good morning." He was about to keep walking but stopped. He looked at the girls eating. "Do they eat well?" he asked. It was the first time he had asked a question like that. Personal. "June eats everything. Lila complains, but she finishes it too." Walter nodded. He stood there for a little longer. Then he went to the kitchen. But 15 minutes later, he came back with a mug of coffee and sat in the armchair again, the same one as yesterday. Claire continued feeding the girls. She pretended it was normal, that she wasn't surprised. Lila finished her baby food and let out a burp. Claire laughed softly and wiped her mouth with a napkin. "What an ill-mannered young lady," she said, playfully. She heard a sound coming from the armchair, almost like a muffled laugh. She looked over there. Walter had his face turned away, but she saw the corner of his mouth go up again. He had found it funny. Slowly, it became routine. Walter still spent most of the day in the office, but now he came out more often. Sometimes he stayed in the living room reading. Other times he just sat there, drinking coffee, looking out the window. And always he watched the girls. Not obviously. He didn't stare. But Claire noticed his sidelong glances, the way he lowered his book when they made a sound. The girls weren't afraid of him, quite the opposite. Whenever they saw him, they smiled, June especially. She liked him, that was obvious. She always crawled towards him when he entered the room. One afternoon, June reached the armchair again. This time she grabbed Walter's leg and stayed there, just looking up. He lowered the newspaper he was reading. "What is it?" he asked. June gave a giggle. She didn't answer, obviously, but she stayed there, holding his pants. Lila crawled over too. She stood on the other side of the armchair. The two looked up at Walter as if he were the most interesting thing in the world. He looked at one, then at the other. "Don't you two have anything to do?" he said. But the tone wasn't harsh, it was almost playful. The girls laughed. Claire, pretending to adjust the sofa cushions, smiled to herself. The small gestures started to appear. Walter started leaving the office door ajar. Before it was always locked. Now there was a gap. He started eating lunch at the kitchen table. He no longer took his plate to the office. Once, Claire was cooking and he came in. He just stood there watching her chop vegetables. "What are you making?" he asked. "Pumpkin soup," he nodded. "I like pumpkin." It wasn't much, but it was the first time he had said he liked something she cooked. Another morning, Claire came downstairs and found the breakfast table already set. 3 plates, 3 mugs, cutlery. Walter was sitting there, drinking coffee. "You can sit," he said without looking at her. Claire hesitated. Then she sat down. She put the girls in the high chairs that were nearby. They had coffee together for the first time. In silence, but together. At night, after putting the girls to bed, Claire went down to clean the kitchen. Sometimes she found Walter still awake, sitting in the living room, reading or just looking at the lit fireplace. Before, he would go upstairs as soon as she appeared, but now he stayed. They didn't talk, they just shared the space. One night, Claire was putting away dishes when she heard footsteps behind her. Walter came into the kitchen with his empty mug. He went to the sink and washed it. She watched. He always left his mug for her to wash. "Thank you," he said suddenly. Claire blinked. "For what?" "For the food. For the cleaning." He dried the mug with a cloth. "For ragu, the order. I'm the one who should thank you for letting us stay." He nodded, put the mug in the cabinet, and left. Claire stood there, surprised. It had been a short conversation. Few words, but it had been the first real conversation between them. On the 12th day, Claire was sitting on the rug with the girls. June was trying to stand up, holding onto her mother's fingers. Lila was chewing on a cloth, drooling all over it. Walter walked into the room, but this time he didn't go to the armchair. He walked up to the rug. He stood there, looking down. "May I?" he asked, pointing to the floor. Claire looked at him, surprised. Of course. He slowly knelt down, a bit awkwardly, and sat on the rug, legs crossed, back straight. He just sat there, quiet, not quite sure what to do with his hands. June immediately crawled over to him. She climbed onto his lap without ceremony. She held onto his shirt and looked closely at his face. Walter tensed at first. Then, slowly, he put his hand on her back to hold her. June gave that giggle again and rested her head on his chest. Lila came over too. She didn't climb onto his lap, but she leaned against his leg, holding the red cloth. Walter looked at the two of them, then at Claire. He didn't say anything, but something in his face had changed. The hardness had lessened. Just a little, but enough for Claire to notice. He stayed there for about 10 minutes, holding June, with Lila leaning against him. Then, carefully, he put June back on the rug and stood up. He left the room without saying a word, but Claire saw. She saw him stop at the door. She saw him look back just once. She saw something in his gaze that hadn't been there before. She didn't know the name for it, but it was there. And as he went up the stairs, Claire found herself smiling. The 2 weeks were almost over. But something had changed between them, Something subtle, almost invisible, but real. And for the first time, Claire wondered if maybe, just maybe, Walter didn't want them to leave. Not that he would ever say it. But she wondered anyway. She looked at the girls. June yawned. Lila was already almost asleep, the red cloth pressed against her face. "You're making magic, you know," Claire whispered. "You're melting that icy heart." The babies didn't answer, but they kept smiling anyway, as they always did. Claire had always loved to cook, not complicated things. No difficult recipes or impossible ingredients, just real food, simple, delicious, the kind of food that warms you up inside. That morning, she decided to make bread. She had found flour, yeast, and salt in the pantry. That was all she needed. She mixed the ingredients, kneaded the dough, let it rest. While she waited, she made strawberry jam with what was left in the fridge. When the bread went into the oven, the smell spread throughout the house, the smell of fresh bread, of home, of comfort. Claire was cleaning the counter when she heard footsteps on the stairs. Walter appeared in the kitchen doorway. He stopped. He sniffed the air. "What is that?" "Bread." "It will be ready in 20 minutes. He just stood there, sniffing. He didn't say anything, but he didn't leave either. When the bread was ready, Claire took it out of the oven. The crust was golden. Perfect. She cut a slice while it was still hot and buttered it. She placed it on a plate and left it on the table. Walter looked at the plate, then at her. He sat down and took the slice. He took a bite. His eyes closed for a second. "You cook well," he said. It wasn't an exaggeration, just a statement of fact. But coming from him, it meant a lot. Claire smiled. "Thank you. Where did you learn?" "From my mother. She always said good food was the best way to take care of people." Walter took another bite. "Your mother was right." He finished the slice in silence. Then he got up and left. But before leaving, he stopped at the door. "Make it again tomorrow," he said. "Please." Claire stared at the empty doorway. He had said, "Please." For lunch, Claire made pasta with homemade tomato sauce. Nothing too elaborate. Fresh tomatoes, garlic, basil, olive oil. She let it simmer slowly until the sauce was thick and fragrant. The smell filled the kitchen. It filled the entire house. This time, Walter appeared even before she called. "Is it ready?" he asked from the doorway. "Almost. 5 more minutes." He stood there, waiting, watching her stir the sauce, taste it, adjust the salt. "Do you need help?" he asked. Claire looked at him, surprised. "You can get the plates over there, if you like." Walter took 2 plates from the cabinet. He put them on the table. Then he got cutlery, napkins. Claire served the pasta. She sprinkled grated cheese on top. She sat down across from him. It was the first time they had truly eaten lunch together, face to face. Not just sharing the space, but sharing the meal. Walter twirled the pasta on his fork and tasted it. "Good," he said. "Very good. I'm glad you liked it." They ate in silence for a few minutes, but it wasn't an uncomfortable silence. It was peaceful. "Have you always cooked like this?" Walter asked suddenly. "Since I was little. My mother taught me. Then, when I got married, I cooked for my husband every day." She stopped, realizing what she had said. It was the first time she had mentioned her husband. Walter didn't ask anything. He just nodded. "He was lucky," he said softly. Claire felt her chest tighten. He was... They continued eating. Walter cleaned his plate entirely. Then he got a second helping. "I like taking care of people like this," Claire said suddenly. "With food, it's simple, but it works." Walter looked at her. "It does work." He finished the second plate. He stood up and took the dishes to the sink. "Thank you," he said. "That was the best meal I've had in years." He left the kitchen before she could answer. But Claire stayed there, smiling to herself. For dinner, she made roast chicken with potatoes. Simple again. She seasoned the chicken with garlic, lemon, and herbs. She placed potatoes around it. She let it roast until the skin was crispy. When it was ready, she set the table. She put a clean tablecloth. She lit a candle she had found in a cabinet. It wasn't anything special, but it made a difference. Walter came down on time. He saw the set table and stopped. "Is this—" He hesitated. "Is this for me?" "For us. I thought we could eat dinner together tonight." He stood still for a moment, then he nodded and sat down. Claire served the chicken. The smell was incredible. Walter cut a piece and ate it. He closed his eyes, savoring it. "This reminds me of—" He stopped. "Reminds you of what?" "My mother used to cook chicken like this. A long time ago." Claire smiled. "Then I did it right." "You did." They ate slowly this time, without rush. "How old are they again?" Walter asked suddenly, looking towards the living room where the girls were sleeping. 8 months. They're calm. They are. June is more active. Lila is more tranquil, but they're good girls." Walter nodded. He cut another potato. "You're a good mother," he said, without looking at her. Claire felt her eyes sting. "Thank you, I'm trying. You're succeeding." A few more minutes of silence, but it was a good silence, comfortable. "For how long have you lived alone?" Claire asked. Walter went quiet. She thought he wouldn't answer. "Many years," he finally said. "Too long. Don't you miss company?" "I thought I didn't." He looked at her. "But maybe I was wrong." Claire didn't know what to say, so she said nothing. She just smiled. They finished dinner. Walter helped clear the plates without her asking. They washed the dishes together. He washed, she dried. "Is there dessert tomorrow?" he asked, almost shyly. "I can make some. What do you like?" "Surprise," he said. "I like surprises." In the following days, it truly became a routine. Claire cooked. Walter appeared. They sat down together. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, always at the table, always together. The conversations were short at first. Comments about the food, the weather outside, the girls. But slowly they became longer. Walter shared that he had been an engineer, that he liked to read, that the garden was neglected because he didn't have the patience for plants. Claire shared that she had worked at a library, that she loved old books, that she wanted to teach the girls to read early. Small things, nothing profound, but important nonetheless. One morning, Claire made pancakes. Walter ate 4. "I haven't had pancakes since—" He stopped. "Since my son was little." It was the first time he had mentioned having a son. Claire didn't ask more. She saw the sadness cross his face and changed the subject. "Do you want more coffee?" "I do." She poured it. He thanked her. At night, after dinner, they started staying in the living room together. Walter read. Claire sewed. The girls slept in the bedroom. They didn't talk much, but they were together, and it was nice. One night, Walter closed his book and looked at Claire. "Thank you," he said. "For what?" "For cooking, for taking care of the house, for—" He hesitated. "For being here." Claire stopped sewing. She looked at him. "I'm the one who should thank you, for letting us stay." Walter nodded. He opened his book again. But Claire saw a slight smile on the corner of his mouth. Small, almost invisible, but it was there. On the 14th day, Claire woke up and realized the 2 weeks had passed. Today was the last day. Tomorrow she would have to leave. She went down to the kitchen, her heart heavy. She made coffee as always. Walter appeared. He sat down at the table. They drank coffee in silence. "Today is the last day," Claire said softly. Walter paused with the mug in the air. He looked at her. He didn't say anything, but something in his gaze shifted. He put the mug down on the table slowly. "It is," he said. "It is." They sat there, silent. The coffee grew cold in their mugs, and neither of them knew what to say. Because the 2 weeks had passed, but neither of them wanted them to leave. The morning was peaceful. Claire had put the girls on the rug in the living room, as usual. June held the blue cloth, swinging it back and forth. Lila was lying on her stomach, trying to reach the red cloth she had thrown far away. Walter was in the armchair. He wasn't reading. He was just watching. He watched the 2 blonde babies playing with those old cloths. Frayed dish towels, stained hand towels, a hole-ridden scarf. It was all they had. June threw the blue cloth up. It landed on her face. She laughed, pulling the cloth off with her little hands. She threw it again. Lila managed to reach the red cloth. She pulled it and hugged it, rubbing it against her face. Walter just watched. His face didn't show what he was thinking. Suddenly, he stood up. "I need to go out," he said. Claire looked at him, surprised. "Is everything okay?" "Yes, I'll be back soon." He grabbed his keys and left. Claire heard the car starting, the sound of the engine fading away. She sat there, wondering what had happened. An hour later, the car returned. Claire was in the kitchen when she heard the front door open, heavy footsteps in the hallway. But there was another sound, too. Something rustling, bags swinging. She went to the living room. Walter stood there, holding 4 large bags, shopping bags. He placed everything on the floor, a bit awkwardly. "What is this?" Claire asked. Walter didn't answer. He started taking things out of the bags. Toys, a lot of them. 2 stuffed bears, a blue one, a pink one, large, colorful building blocks, a soft rattle ball, 2 star-shaped teethers, a fabric picture book with animal figures, 2 colorful rattles. Walter put everything on the floor next to the rug where the girls were. June dropped the blue cloth and crawled to the toys. She picked up the rattle ball. She shook it. The sound made her laugh. Lila went to the pink bear. She touched it carefully, then pressed it against her chest. Claire stood still, looking at all of it. She felt her eyes sting. "Mr. Walter, They deserve more than scraps of cloth," he said, without looking at her. His voice was a little hoarse. "They are children. Children need real toys." Claire covered her mouth with her hand. Tears flowed. "Thank you," she managed to say. "Thank you so much." Walter looked at her quickly, then looked away. "It's nothing." "It is. It's a lot." He didn't answer. He just stood there watching the girls explore the new toys. June threw the ball. It rolled and stopped near his feet. The baby crawled over, picked up the ball, and looked at Walter. She smiled. That enormous smile she always made. Walter slowly bent down. He picked up the ball and handed it to her. "Here," he said softly. June laughed and took the ball. She threw it again. This time the ball rolled back to Walter. He picked it up and tossed it back. June threw it again, and again, and again. It turned into a game. June threw it. Walter caught it and returned it. The baby laughed louder each time the ball came back. Claire sat on the sofa watching. Walter had a slight smile on his face. Small, but genuine. Lila crawled up to him too, still holding the pink bear. She stopped near his leg and looked up. He looked at her. "Hi," he said. Lila gave a giggle. She offered the bear to him. Walter took it. He looked at the toy, then gave it back to her. "It's yours," he said. "Take good care of it." Lila hugged the bear and leaned against Walter's knee, staying there. He didn't pull away. He stayed quiet, with June throwing the ball nearby and Lila leaning against him. Claire felt her chest tighten. It was such a simple scene, but so beautiful. After that day, something truly changed. Walter no longer just stayed in the office or the armchair. He came down. He sat on the floor with the girls. He stayed there with them, not all the time, but often. In the morning, after coffee, he would appear. He sat on the rug and let the girls play nearby. June always brought toys to him. The ball, the blocks, the rattle. She put everything on his lap. Walter picked up each thing, examined it, handed it back. "This is a ball," he said, showing June. "Ball." June clapped her hands. "Baba." "That's right. Ball." Lila liked the blocks. Walter stacked them. She knocked them down. He stacked them again. She knocked them down again. Every time, both of them laughed. Claire watched from a distance, pretending to do other things, but she always watched. She saw Walter slowly transforming, becoming lighter, more present. The house had changed too. Before it was silent. Now it had sounds, baby laughter, rattles shaking, blocks falling. Walter's deep voice talking to the girls. "This one is green," he would say, showing a block. "Green." "Bah," June would reply. "Almost. Green." "Bah." "That's fine." "Bah works." The sounds filled the house. They gave it life. One afternoon, Claire was in the kitchen when she heard something different. It wasn't baby laughter. It was adult laughter. Walter's. She went to the door and looked. Walter was on the floor, on his stomach, just like the girls. June had climbed onto his back. Lila was gently pulling his hair. He was laughing. A hoarse chuckle, as if he had forgotten how to laugh and was relearning. "Careful, you two will knock me over," he said, still laughing. June patted his back. "Bah! I'm not a horse." Lila pulled his hair again. "Fine, fine, I'm a horse." He crawled a little across the rug. The girls loved it. They laughed loudly. Claire leaned against the doorframe, smiling. Who was this man? He wasn't the same one who had opened the door on that rainy night. He wasn't the hard, closed-off man who wanted distance. He was someone else, or maybe he was the person he had been before and had forgotten. The days continued to pass. Walter still worked in the office, but he came out a lot more now. Sometimes he only spent 15 minutes with the girls. Other times he stayed for over an hour. He started carrying them. At first it was awkward. He held them too tight or too loose, but the girls didn't mind. June loved being held by him. She climbed up whenever she could. She pulled his shirt, held his face with her little hands. Walter let her, he didn't complain. One morning, Claire came downstairs and found Walter sitting on the sofa with Lila asleep on his lap. He had a book in his hand, but wasn't reading. He was just looking at the sleeping baby. "She fell asleep while I was holding her," he said softly when he saw Claire. "I don't want to wake her up." "You can stay like that, it's no problem." Walter nodded. He stayed there, quiet, holding Lila for another half hour. When she woke up, he carefully handed her back to Claire. "She's light," he said. "Feels like she weighs nothing. Wait a few more months, then you'll see." He smiled. A real smile. "I'm looking forward to it." Claire stopped mid-motion. She looked at him. "I'm looking forward to it." As if he expected to be there in a few months, as if they were going to stay. Walter realized what he had said. He cleared his throat and left the room. But the words hung in the air. One afternoon, Walter was sitting on the floor. June was on his lap, playing with the blocks. Lila was next to him, leafing through the fabric book. Claire was folding laundry on the sofa. You know," Walter said suddenly without looking at her, "I never thought I'd—" He stopped. Claire waited. "You never thought what?" she asked gently. He was quiet for a moment. June put a block in her mouth. He carefully took it out and gave her the teether instead. "I never thought I'd miss them when they're not around," he finally said. His voice was low, almost a whisper. Claire stopped folding the clothes. "What do you mean?" "When I wake up in the morning, the first thing I think about is going downstairs to see them." He looked at June on his lap. "When I'm in the office, I listen for their sounds downstairs, the laughter, the noise, and—" He swallowed hard. "And I want to come down, to see what they're doing." Claire felt her eyes sting again. "At first I thought it would be hard having you here," he continued, "that it would disrupt my routine, my peace, my silence." He gave a humorless laugh. "But now I can't imagine this house without those sounds, without that laughter." He looked at Claire for the first time. "Without you all." Claire didn't know what to say. Tears flowed down her face. "The 2 weeks ended yesterday," Walter said. "You should have left today." "I know, but you didn't." "I didn't." "Why?" Claire wiped her tears. "Because I can't imagine leaving either." They stared at each other. June broke the moment. She threw a block that hit Walter in the face. "Ouch," he said, laughing. "Watch out there." June laughed too. "Bah!" Lila crawled over to Claire and climbed onto her lap, still holding the little book. "So," Walter said slowly, "if you don't want to go, and I don't want you to go—" He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Claire understood. "You can stay," he said, looking at June again. "As long as you want. No deadline. Are you sure?" "Absolutely." He looked at her. "This house was dead. You brought life back. I don't want to lose that." Claire smiled. "Thank you." "No, thank you." June threw another block. Walter caught it and tossed it back to her. "We'll have to teach you not to throw things at people," he said. Bah is not an excuse. Lila showed the little book to Claire. There was a dog drawn on it. "Woof, woof," Claire said. Lila tried to repeat it. "Ah, ah." "That's it. Woof, woof." Walter watched the two of them. Then he looked at June on his lap. "You've changed everything," he said softly. "And I don't know how, but you have." June rested her head on his chest. She yawned. Walter adjusted her more comfortably, holding her gently. "Go to sleep," he whispered. "I'm here." And June slept. Right there, on his lap, safe. Claire looked at the scene. The harsh man who had opened the door on that rainy night. Now sitting on the floor, with a baby sleeping on his lap, surrounded by colorful toys. What a difference 2 weeks made. What a difference 2 smiles made. Lila was also getting sleepy. Claire slowly rocked her. The living room was peaceful. Only the sound of the sleeping babies breathing. Walter looked around, at the scattered toys, at the folded clothes, at Claire with Lila on her lap, at the life that had returned to that house, and for the first time in many, many years, he truly felt at home, not just in a house, but in a home. Later, when the girls were still sleeping, Walter spoke again. "Do you know what else I miss?" "What?" Their laughter. "When I'm in the office and it gets too quiet, I miss it." He looked at June sleeping on the sofa where he had placed her. That sound, those 2 little giggles. Claire smiled. "They like you, and I like them." He said it simply, naturally, as if it were obvious. "Very much." "They can tell." "You think so?" "I'm sure of it. Babies know these things." Walter nodded. He watched the girls sleep. "I was never good with children," he said. "Not even with my own son was I good. But with them," he paused. "With them it's different. It's natural, it's easy. It's because you're letting it be. You're allowing yourself." He thought about it. Maybe you're right. They stayed there, the 2 of them, watching the babies sleep. The house was filled with a peace that hadn't existed before. A peace made of laughter, of scattered toys, of homemade food, of companionship, of life. And Walter, for the first time in decades, didn't feel lonely. He didn't feel empty. He felt whole. The smell of roast chicken filled the kitchen. Claire had spent the afternoon preparing dinner. Nothing too elaborate. Chicken with potatoes and vegetables. Simple, but made with care. She seasoned the chicken with garlic, herbs and lemon. She placed potatoes and carrots around it. She let it roast slowly until the skin was golden and crispy. Now she was finishing up. She took the roasting pan out of the oven, steam rising. She prepared a simple salad. She arranged everything in serving dishes. The girls were on the living room rug, as usual. June was clapping her hands over a block. Lila was chewing on the pink bear Walter had given her. Claire was about to put the plates on the table when she heard footsteps. Walter appeared in the kitchen doorway. He stopped, sniffing the air. "Smells good," he said. "I hope it is." She was going to make a plate for him, as she always did. He would take it to the office or eat alone at the table, but he didn't leave. He stood there, looking at the set table, at the ready food, at Claire. "Sit down," he said suddenly. Claire looked at him. "What?" "Sit down. Let's eat dinner together." It wasn't a request, but it wasn't an order either. It was an invitation, genuine. Claire felt something warm in her chest. "Are you sure?" "I am. It doesn't make sense for you to eat alone while I eat alone. Let's eat together. For real." Claire smiled. "All right." She picked up the girls and placed them on the rug next to the table. Not too close to interfere, but close enough to be there. Then she sat down. Walter was already sitting across from her. She served the chicken, the potatoes, the salad. She put it on his plate first, then on hers. "Thank you," he said. "You're welcome." They started eating. The chicken was perfect, tender, juicy, well-seasoned. The potatoes were crispy on the outside and soft on the inside. Walter ate slowly, savoring every forkful. "It's delicious," he said. "I'm glad." They ate in silence for a few minutes, but it wasn't an awkward silence. It was comfortable. From the rug, sounds came. June threw the block far away. "Bah! Lila giggled. Walter looked at them and smiled. Then he returned to eating. "Are they doing well?" he asked. "They are. They ate dinner earlier. Now they're just playing until bedtime." He nodded. He cut another piece of chicken. Claire looked around, at the set table, at the homemade food, at Walter sitting there with her, at the girls playing nearby. It felt like a family, a real family. Something tightened in her chest, good and painful at the same time. "What are you thinking about?" Walter asked. Claire blinked. "Nothing, just, this is nice." "It is," he agreed. "It's very nice." They continued eating. Walter got a second helping. "Can I ask you something?" Claire said. "You can." "Why did you invite me to dinner today, for real?" Walter put his fork down on the plate. He thought about the answer. "Because I was tired of eating alone," he said. "Because I realized there's no point in having someone in the house and still being alone, and because—" He looked at her. "Because I enjoy your company." Claire felt her face warm up. "I enjoy yours too," he smiled. A small but genuine smile. They returned to eating. The conversation flowed naturally now. Walter talked about a book he was reading. Claire talked about a recipe she wanted to try. Simple things, everyday things, but important. A simple meal was transforming into something bigger, into a ritual, into a tradition, into a family moment. Claire smiled lightly, taking the salad. Walter watched her. His eyes held something different. Something that hadn't been there before. Something warm, gentle. Claire noticed his gaze and felt her heart beat a little faster. "What is it?" she asked. "Nothing. Just, it's good to have you here. It's good to be here." They finished the meal. Claire served more salad. Walter accepted. "You know," Claire said, "I never properly thanked you. For letting us stay, for buying the toys for the girls, for everything. You don't need to thank me. You brought life to this house. I'm the one who should thank you. Even so, thank you." Walter nodded. He took a sip of water. Claire hesitated. A question had been on the tip of her tongue for days, but she never had the courage to ask. Now sitting there with him, in the middle of that peaceful moment, she thought maybe it was the right time. "Can I ask you something else?" "You can." Claire took a deep breath. "Do you have family?" Walter stopped. The fork hung in the air for a second. Then he put it down on the plate slowly. His face changed. The lightness of moments ago disappeared. "Why do you ask?" "Curiosity. And because you seem like someone who once did. Someone who lost them." Walter went quiet. He looked at his plate, at the food he was no longer eating. "I did," he finally said. His voice was different, lower, heavier. "A son." Claire waited. She didn't say anything. "Daniel," Walter continued. "His name was Daniel." The name echoed in the kitchen. Claire felt something strange, a shiver, as if the universe had shifted a millimeter. "What happened to him?" she asked gently. Walter swallowed hard. His eyes became distant. He left. He was 10 years old. His mother, my wife, had died a year before. I didn't know how to handle the pain, the loss, so I closed myself off. He squeezed his eyes shut. I closed myself off so much that my son felt alone. One day he ran away. He went to live with his aunt, my wife's sister. I let him. I thought it would be better for him. And then nothing. He grew up far from me. I tried to contact him a few times, but he didn't want to. I don't blame him. I was a terrible father. And then, his voice trembled, and then he died. A year ago, I received a letter from his aunt, saying he had died in an accident. He was 28. I never saw him again. Walter covered his face with his hands. I never saw my son again after he was 10. I never apologized. I never told him I loved him. And now I never will be able to... Claire was frozen in her chair. It couldn't be. It couldn't. Her heart was pounding, very hard. "Daniel," she whispered. "Your son's name was Daniel." "Yes. And he died a year ago." Walter lowered his hands and looked at her. "Yes, why?" Claire couldn't breathe properly. "My husband." Her voice came out shaky. My husband's name was Daniel. Walter blinked. What? He died a year ago, in a car accident. Silence fell like a bomb. Walter became completely motionless, staring at her, processing. It can't be, he said, more to himself than to her. It can't. Claire, her hands trembling, reached into her pants pocket. She had a photo there. She always carried it. It was the only photo she had left. She took out the photo and handed it to Walter. He took it slowly. He looked. It was a photo of a young man. Brown hair, a smile on his face. Next to him, Claire, younger, smiling too. Walter looked at the man's face. He didn't recognize him. How could he? He hadn't seen his son since he was 10. The boy he knew had a round face, missing teeth, scraped knees. This was a man, an adult, with wrinkles around his eyes, stubble. But then Walter looked into the eyes of the man in the photo, and he stopped. Those eyes. He knew those eyes. Those eyes. His voice was broken. Those eyes are his. Walter's hands trembled holding the photo. They are my Daniel's eyes. Identical, exactly identical. Claire was crying now, tears streaming down her face. Full name, Walter said, still looking at the photo. What was your husband's full name? Daniel Grayson. Walter dropped the photo onto the table. He covered his mouth with his hand. His entire body began to shake. Grayson, he repeated. Daniel Grayson. He looked at Claire, then at the photo, then at the living room where the girls were playing, the blonde girls with light eyes, his son's eyes. No, he whispered. It can't be. But it was. Tears began to fall down his face, silent, heavy. You were my son's wife, he said, his voice completely broken. Claire could only nod. Crying too. Walter looked towards the living room again, at June throwing the block, at Lila hugging the bear, and they... He couldn't finish. Claire finished for him. They are your granddaughters. Walter stood up from the chair so fast it almost toppled. He walked to the living room. He stopped in front of the rug where the girls were. He looked at them. Truly looked. The two stopped playing and looked at him. June smiled. Bah! Lila raised her little arms. Walter knelt on the floor. His legs couldn't hold him anymore. He looked into June's blue eyes, into Lila's blue eyes, his son's eyes. The eyes he had never seen again after he was 10, right there. In those two babies. His son had died, but he had left this behind. He had left them. My granddaughters, he whispered. You are my granddaughters. June crawled over to him. She climbed onto his lap. She rested her head on his chest. Lila followed. She stayed by his side, holding his arm. Walter enveloped them in his arms. He squeezed them against his chest and he cried. He cried like he hadn't cried in years. Since his wife had died, since his son had left, he cried for the loss, for the pain, for the years lost, but he also cried with relief because his son, in some way, had returned to him, not Daniel, not directly, but Daniel's daughters, Daniel's family, his blood, his continuation. Claire slowly approached. She knelt beside them. She placed her hand on Walter's shoulder. He used to talk about you, she said softly. Not often, but sometimes. He said he had a father, that they had separated when he was a child, that he missed him. Walter looked at her through his tears. He missed me. He did. He never said it directly, but I could tell he kept his childhood photos. He looked at them sometimes, especially one of you two fishing. Walter let out a sob. I remember that day. He remembered it too. The girls were quiet on his lap, as if they felt the importance of that moment. Walter kissed June's head, then Lila's. My granddaughters, he repeated. My girls. He looked at Claire. And you? You were my son's wife. You're part of his family. You are... your daughter-in-law, Claire finished. Walter nodded. The tears continued to fall. All these weeks, you were here, and I didn't know. I didn't know I was taking care of my son's family, his daughters, his wife. Neither of us knew, Claire said. How could we? Daniel never told me his father's full name. He never brought me here. I had no way of knowing the mansion I knocked on that night was yours. But now we know. Now we know." Walter looked at the girls again. He ran his hand over their blonde hair. "They have his eyes," he said. "Identical. Exactly identical. They do. I see Daniel in them every day. In the way June smiles. In the way Lila furrows her brow when she's concentrating." Walter gave a tearful laugh. He used to furrow his brow like that too, when he was little. They stayed there, the four of them, kneeling on the rug, a family, separated by years, by pain, by loss, but brought back together, not in the way anyone expected, but reunited. "I failed my son," Walter said softly. "I wasn't there when he needed me. I let him leave. I was a coward. I was weak. Don't say that. It's true. But I won't fail you all." He looked into Claire's eyes. "I won't let you leave. I won't repeat the same mistakes. You are family. You are all that is left of my Daniel." Claire cried harder. "We need you too. More than you know." Walter pulled her into the hug too, the four of them there embracing in the middle of the room. June yawned. Lila rubbed her little eyes. "They're sleepy," Claire said. "I'll help put them to bed," Walter said. Together, they took the girls to the room. They placed them in the improvised armchairs where they slept. Walter stayed there, watching the two of them fall asleep. "Tomorrow I'm going to buy real cribs," he said, "and I'm going to fix up a better room, a real nursery for them. You don't need to do all that. I do. They are my granddaughters. They deserve the best." Claire smiled through her tears. When the girls finally slept, they returned to the living room. They sat on the sofa, side by side. "I can't believe it," Walter said. "All this time. You were here. They were here. My family was here. And I didn't know." "Maybe it was meant to be this way," Claire said. "Maybe we needed to get to know each other first. As people. Before knowing the truth. Maybe." They fell silent for a moment. "Thank you," Claire said. "For what?" "For opening the door that night. For letting us in. For giving us a chance." Walter shook his head. "I was the lucky one. You brought me back to life. You gave me a second chance with the family I thought I had lost forever." He looked at her. "I won't waste this chance, I promise." Claire believed him, because she saw the truth in his eyes. The same truth she saw in the girl's eyes, Daniel's eyes, his family. Walter didn't come out of his room the next day. Claire woke up early, as always. She went downstairs with the girls. She made coffee. She waited, but he didn't appear. She looked at the stairs several times, nothing. She made breakfast, toast, jam, fruit. She left everything on the table. She slowly went up to his room. She knocked on the door lightly. "Mr. Walter." Silence. "Coffee is ready. It's on the table." More silence. Then, his voice, hoarse, tired. "Thank you. I'll be down later." But he didn't come down. Claire went back to the kitchen. She picked up the girls and went to the living room. She fed them baby food. She changed their diapers. She put on clean clothes. The day passed slowly. She cleaned the house. She cooked lunch. She left a plate for Walter on the counter, covered. She went upstairs again. She knocked on the door. "I left lunch for you." "Thank you." The voice came from inside the room, low, distant. Claire went downstairs. She waited. An hour later, she went up to check. The plate was still there, untouched. She understood. Walter needed time. He needed to process. Yesterday's discovery had been too big, too heavy. He had discovered that the people staying in his house were his family, the family of the son he had lost, the granddaughters he never knew existed. It was a lot. For anyone, it would be a lot. So Claire didn't insist. She just left him alone. The hours passed. Claire played with the girls. She read the fabric book to them. June laughed at the colorful pictures. Lila chewed on the corners of the pages. In the afternoon, she made cookies. The smell filled the house, sweet, comforting. She left some on a plate in front of Walter's bedroom door. Half an hour later, when she passed through the hallway, the plate was empty. At least he was eating something. She made a simple dinner, vegetable soup, fresh bread. She left it in the kitchen, ready, but Walter didn't come down. Night came. Claire bathed the girls. She put pajamas on them. But she didn't take them to sleep yet. She stayed with them in the living room. She sat on the rug. June crawled around, exploring. Lila stayed on her lap, holding the pink bear. Claire hummed softly, a lullaby her mother used to sing. June stopped crawling and looked at her. She smiled. Lila rested her head on her mother's shoulder. It was a peaceful moment. Simple. Just a mother and her daughters. Claire looked around the room, at the scattered toys, at the lit fireplace, at the house that had become a home, and she thought of Walter, upstairs, alone, carrying the weight of everything that hadn't been said, of everything he hadn't done. It must hurt, she thought. It must hurt so much. It was almost 8 in the evening when she heard it. Footsteps upstairs, the door opening, steps coming down the stairs, slow, heavy. Claire kept quiet. She stayed on the rug with the girls. Walter appeared in the living room doorway. He stopped there, just looking. He was wearing the same clothes as yesterday. His hair was messy. He had deep, dark circles under his eyes. His eyes were red, but he was there. Claire didn't say anything. She just looked at him and gave a small smile. June saw him. Bah! She raised her little arms. Walter slowly walked into the room. Each step seemed heavy, as if he carried the world on his shoulders. He came near the rug and stopped. Claire thought he would sit in the armchair or on the sofa. Keep his distance, but he didn't do that. He knelt down, slowly, carefully, and sat on the floor, on the rug, next to them, legs crossed, back slumped. He looked tired, so tired. June crawled over to him immediately. She climbed onto his lap without hesitation. She grabbed his shirt with her little hands. Walter hugged her. He squeezed her against his chest. He closed his eyes. Lila, still on Claire's lap, looked at Walter. Then she looked at her mother. Claire understood. She slowly let go of Lila. The baby crawled over to Walter. She didn't climb onto his lap. She just stayed by his side. And then, slowly, she leaned her head against his chest. She rested her little head right where his heart was beating. Walter opened his eyes. He looked at Lila. He put his hand on her back, holding her. He stayed there with June on his lap and Lila leaning against him. The 2 blonde babies, the 2 granddaughters he didn't know he had. Claire saw the tears in his eyes, not flowing down, just there, still shining. "I spent the day thinking," Walter said suddenly. His voice was hoarse, weak. "Just thinking." Claire waited. "Thinking about everything I did wrong, about all the chances I missed, about all the moments I'll never get back." He looked at June on his lap. He ran his hand over her blonde hair. "My son was 10 when he left. 10, he was still a child. He needed me, and I let him go. I told myself it was better that way, that he would be happier far away, but it was a lie." His voice cracked a little. "It was just my own cowardice. I didn't know how to be a father alone. I didn't know how to deal with the pain of losing my wife and still take care of him. So I chose the easy way out. I let him go." June yawned. Walter adjusted her more comfortably on his lap. "In the following years, I thought about going after him, many times, especially at first. I picked up the phone, dialed his aunt's number, but I always hung up before anyone answered." He shook his head. "I was afraid. Afraid he wouldn't want to see me. Afraid it was already too late. Afraid to face my own mistakes." Lila moved, pressing closer against his chest, so I stopped trying. I convinced myself it was better that way, that he had a new life, that he didn't need me, and I went on living, alone, in this enormous house, with nothing but silence and regret. Claire felt her own eyes sting. When I got the letter saying he had died, it was like the world had ended. I hadn't had the chance to apologize, to tell him I loved him, to be the father I should have been. He looked at Claire for the first time. "And then you appeared. With these 2 little ones, you knocked on my door on a rainy night, and you changed everything." The tears finally fell down his face. "For weeks, you were here. You brought life. You brought joy. You brought light to this dead house, and I didn't even know. I didn't even know I was being given a second chance, a chance to fix my mistakes, to be for you all what I wasn't for him." June had fallen asleep on his lap, her breathing tranquil, her mouth slightly open. I spent the whole day thinking about all of it. The weight of everything that wasn't said, everything that wasn't done, the chances I let slip away. He looked at Lila leaning against him, then at June sleeping, then at Claire. I didn't go after my son, he said, his voice firm now, determined. I let fear stop me. I let pride blind me. I let the chance to have him back in my life slip away. He took a deep breath. But I won't repeat that with you all. Claire felt her tears fall. I won't let you leave. I won't stand by while the chance slips through my fingers again. You are family. You are all that is left of him, and I'm going to do it right this time. He looked into her eyes. I'm going to be the grandfather I couldn't be when he was a father. I'm going to be present. I'm going to care for them. I'm going to love these girls with everything I have. And I'm going to take care of you too, because you were part of his life, and now you're part of mine. Claire couldn't speak. She could only cry. This is my second chance, Walter said, and I won't waste it, I promise, to you, to them. And to Daniel. Lila lifted her little head and looked at Walter. She smiled, that toothless smile. Walter smiled back, the tears still flowing, but smiling. I promise, he repeated. Quieter now. Claire moved closer. She put her hand on his shoulder. He would be happy, she said. Daniel would be happy to know you're here, taking care of his daughters. His family. Walter nodded. He couldn't speak anymore. They stayed there, the three of them, the girls almost asleep. The silence around them. But it was a different silence now. It wasn't the heavy silence of the whole day, the silence of weight and regret. It was the silence of peace, of a decision made, of a future promised. Walter had carried the weight of what wasn't said his whole life, but now, right there on the floor with his granddaughters, he had finally put that weight down, and he had promised not to make the same mistakes. It was a new beginning, for all of them, and this time he wasn't going to let it slip away. The morning arrived differently. Claire came downstairs with the girls and found Walter already in the kitchen. The table was set. 3 plates, 3 mugs. The coffee was ready. Good morning, he said, smiling. It was a genuine smile. Light. Good morning, Claire replied. They sat together, the girls in their high chairs nearby. Walter poured coffee for Claire, put toast on her plate. Did they sleep well, he asked, looking at the babies. They did. June only woke up once. And you, Claire smiled. I slept well, thank you. They had a peaceful breakfast. They talked about the weather, the birds in the yard, a recipe Claire wanted to try. Simple things, everyday things. But they meant everything. Walter was present, truly present. Not just physically, but completely there. June banged on the table. Bah! Walter looked at her. Good morning, little one. Lila smiled, showing her gums. Good morning, beautiful. Claire watched. Her heart felt warm. That man had transformed. After breakfast, they went to the living room. Claire spread the toys on the rug. June grabbed the ball. Lila went for the blocks. Walter sat on the floor with them, without hesitation. Shall we play? June threw the ball at him. It hit his knee. Walter caught it and tossed it back. Good throw. They kept playing catch. June laughed louder each time. Walter did too. You have a strong arm. You'll be an athlete. Bah! That's right. Lila dumped all the blocks in front of him. Do you want a tower? Lila clapped her hands. Walter started stacking. 1 block, 2, 3, 4. The tower grew tall. Lila looked, fascinated. Then she pushed everything over. The blocks tumbled down. She laughed loudly. Walter burst out laughing. Destroyer. And he made another tower. Lila knocked it down again and again and again. Each time, both of them laughed more. Claire, on the sofa, watched, her heart full. After lunch, the girls slept. Walter sought out Claire. Can you come with me? I want to show you something. She grabbed the baby monitor and followed. He led her to the office. Claire had never been inside. It was his private space, but now he was inviting her. The office was large, shelves full of books, dark wooden desk, window overlooking the yard. Walter opened a drawer He took out a photo album, old worn leather cover. "Sit down." Claire sat next to him. He opened the album. The first photo was of a baby, wrapped in a blue blanket. Eyes closed. "Daniel," Walter said, "1 day old." Claire touched the photo. Her chest felt tight. He was beautiful. He was perfect. Walter turned the pages. Daniel at 2 months, at 6, at 1 year, taking his first steps. This was when he held my finger for the first time. More photos. Daniel at 2 years old, at 3, at 5. One photo made Claire stop. Daniel at about 5 years old, holding a fish. Walter next to him, also holding a fish. Father and son smiling. "The fishing day," Claire whispered. Walter looked up, surprised. "How do you know?" "Daniel kept that photo. He showed me once, said it was one of the best days of his childhood." Walter's eyes filled with tears. "He said that he did. He remembered everything, how you taught him to put on the bait." A tear rolled down his face. "It was one of the best days of my life too." They continued looking. Daniel at 7 years old, at 8, at 9, at 10. After that last photo, the pages were empty. Walter closed the album. That was the last one. 2 weeks before he left, he placed the album aside and took a stack of envelopes from the drawer, yellowed, many of them. "These are letters I wrote to Daniel, but I never sent them." Claire looked at the envelopes. There were at least 25. Walter picked one up, opened it, handed it to Claire. "You can read it." Claire unfolded the paper. "Daniel, today you would turn 16. I wonder how you are. Tall, probably. It's been 6 years since we last saw each other. I try not to count the days, but I do. Everyone. I wish I were there to blow out the candles with you, to say happy birthday. Even so, think of me today, because I'll be thinking of you all day long. Happy birthday, son. With love, your father." Claire couldn't see anymore. Tears blurred everything. He needed these letters. He needed to know. "I know, but I didn't send them." Walter put the letters away. He closed the drawer. He turned to Claire. "I'm going to do for you all what I couldn't do for him," he said firmly. "I'm going to be present. For everything. Mr. Walter, this house is yours too now. It's our home, all of ours." Claire tried to speak but couldn't. "I want to be a good grandfather to these girls. I want to watch them grow up, be there for their birthdays, parties, everything. I want every moment." He held her hand. "And I want you to know, you are not alone. You have family now. You have a home." Claire squeezed his hand. "Thank you. Thank you for giving me this chance." That afternoon, Walter took Claire up to the 2nd floor. He stopped in front of that door, the closed door. "You can open it now." Claire slowly pushed it open. The door opened, and she stopped. Her mouth dropped open. The room had been transformed. 2 white cribs, side by side. Sheets with star patterns, fluffy pillows, folded blankets, a large chest of drawers, changing table on top, shelves with new toys, bears, books, dolls, a mobile hanging between the cribs, moons and stars that slowly turned, soft rug on the floor, comfortable armchair in the corner, soft lamp next to the cribs, pictures on the walls, new curtains with little stars. Claire covered her mouth, crying. "When did you do this?" "Yesterday. While I was in the room. I called a store. I asked them to set it up while you were downstairs." "I can't believe it." Walter walked in. He ran his hand over a crib. "They deserve a real nursery, a place just for them." Claire touched the mobile. It turned, playing soft music. "It's perfect, it's beautiful. It's theirs forever." When the girls woke up, Walter picked them up. "Come on, Grandpa has a surprise." He went upstairs with them. Claire followed. He entered the new room. June and Lila looked around, their eyes wide. "Bah!" June pointed to the mobile. Lila stretched her little arms towards the cribs. Walter placed each one in a crib. They explored. They touched the sheets. They watched the mobile. They grabbed the bears. They laughed loudly. "Do you like it?" Both clapped their hands. "Bah! Bah! This is your room forever." Claire stood in the doorway, watching, her heart overflowing. Late in the afternoon, Claire looked out the window. Walter was in the yard with Lila in his arms. "This is a rose," he was saying. "Smell it." He brought the flower close to her little nose. Lila sniffed and laughed. "Did you like it? But it has thorns. Don't touch it alone." June was crawling on the grass, picking up leaves, tossing them up. "So calm down, little one," Walter said, laughing. "A leaf isn't food." Claire smiled. That scene was perfect. That night, they ate dinner together. Claire had made pasta with Alfredo sauce, Daniel's favorite. She told Walter. He went quiet. Then he smiled. He always had good taste. They sat down, the girls in their high chairs eating baby food. Claire and Walter facing each other. The conversation flowed naturally. About the day, about the girls, about plans. In the middle of dinner, June stopped. She looked at Walter. "Grandpa." Everyone stopped. Claire looked. "What did you say, sweetie?" June pointed. "Grandpa." Lila looked too. "Grandpa." Walter dropped his fork. His hand was trembling. "They called me?" "Grandpa," Claire said, crying. "You're their grandpa." Walter quickly got up. He knelt between the high chairs. "That's right, my darlings. I am your grandpa, and I love you both very much." He kissed June's forehead, then Lila's. "Grandpa," June repeated. "Grandpa." Lila clapped her hands. Walter was laughing and crying. He hugged both of them. He squeezed them against his chest. Claire watched, crying too. That moment, that word, it meant everything. Walter returned to his chair but couldn't eat. Too emotional. Claire looked around, at the table, at the girls, at Walter, at the house full of life. "Thank you," she said softly. Walter looked. "For what?" "For giving us a home." Her voice full of gratitude. Walter shook his head. "No? You gave me a home too? You gave me family? You gave me a reason to live?" He looked at the girls. "You saved my life." Claire smiled through her tears. "And you saved ours." Later, after putting the girls in their new cribs, Claire and Walter stood in the doorway, watching the babies sleep, blonde hair on the pillows, soft breaths, relaxed little mouths. "They are at peace," Walter whispered. "They are, finally." He looked at Claire. "We're going to be fine, the four of us. We're going to be a real family." "We are." Walter smiled, that genuine smile that had returned. "Good night, Claire." "Good night, Walter." They each went to their own room, but before that, Walter went back. He looked one last time. June and Lila were sleeping peacefully. Together, safe, his granddaughters, Daniel's family, his second chance, and he wasn't going to waste it. Walter smiled and slowly closed the door. Tomorrow would be a new day. The first day of the rest of their lives, together, as a family. The house was no longer silent. It was full of laughter, of life, of love. Walter slowly descended the stairs. He passed the living room where everything had begun, where Claire had slept with the girls on that first rainy night. He looked at the rug where they played every day, at the scattered toys, at the fireplace that now warmed more than just the body. It warmed the soul too. He had lost his son. He had wasted years alone, locked in that enormous, empty house. But fate had given him an unexpected second chance, in the form of two blonde babies with eyes as blue as the sky, in the form of a daughter-in-law he had never met, but now loved, in the form of a family he never knew he had but desperately needed, and he was going to cherish every second of that chance, every laugh, every smile, every tantrum, every moment, every memory. Because now he knew, he finally understood. He knew that time was too precious to waste. That family was the only thing that truly mattered in the end. That love was stronger than any past regret, that it was never too late to truly start over. Walter looked around one last time before going upstairs. His house, no, their home, the family's home. He smiled to himself and went up the stairs to sleep. For the first time in decades, he slept in complete peace, without heavy regrets, without constant pain, without crushing loneliness, only with deep gratitude and brilliant hope for the tomorrow that would come. In the yard outside, The moon illuminated the flowers he had shown Lila, the stars shone in the clear sky, and inside the house, 4 hearts finally rested, united, whole, at peace. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next ones. Leave a like because it helps this story get recommended to more people. See you in the next story.